call it a victory lap or a love fest, a palate cleanser. After Donald Trump's grievance-filled, quote-unquote, economic address yesterday. But today it was President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris who were seen bounding onto a stage in Maryland for their first joint appearance since President Joe Biden dropped out of the race and endorsed his number two, Vice President Kamala Harris. They were there to tout what is being billed as, quote, a crowning achievement of the Biden administration after years of battling with the pharmaceutical industry. It is the culmination of a year-long effort to negotiate with pharmaceutical companies over some of the priciest drugs used by older Americans and has resulted in about $6 billion in initial savings. And as you listen in to the president and vice president, it's worth remembering that 24 hours ago, over on Earth 2, Trump described President Biden as very angry, a very angry man who Vice President Harris, quote, wants nothing to do with. Watch reality.
And of course, I could speak all afternoon about the person that I am standing on this stage with. And he's going to speak in a minute, but there's a lot of love in this room for our president. And I think it's for many, many reasons, including few leaders in our nation have done more on so many issues, including to expand access to affordable health care than Joe Biden. And today we take the next step, thank you, Joe, forward in our fight.
Thank you, Kamala. Well, I love you guys, too. I've been waiting for this moment for a long, long time. First time I sponsored a bill to let Medicare negotiate the price of drugs was in 1973 as a freshman senator with a guy named Frank Church from the state of Idaho. Folks, I have an incredible partner. The progress we've made, she's going to make one hell of a president.
And make no mistake, today's achievement by the Biden administration and this joint appearance we just showed you today is a perfect political storm that will haunt Donald Trump's dreams tonight. Not just the palpable energy and enthusiasm and connection between the president, the vice president, and the audience, not just the massive crowds and the lines of hundreds of people who waited hours to get into that event. It is also that today's crowning achievement by the Biden administration saves Americans real money on something that causes them genuine anxiety, their prescription drugs. And in doing so, punches another hole in Donald Trump's apocalyptic vision of life in America today. It is the latest proof point that Donald Trump's old playbook and tired talking points is failing him this time, as the pillars of Trump's dystopian vision of America continue to crumble one by one. Beating the drum on inflation and skyrocketing drug prices may be Trump's go-to message, but with yesterday's news on inflation and now today's news on this landmark prescription drug deal, it's getting harder and harder by the day and by the hour to sell that message to more Americans. It's where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. NBC News Washington correspondent Yamiche Alcindor here, and New York Times editorial board member and MSNBC political analyst Mara Gay is here as well. Yamiche, I had no doubt that the enthusiasm would envelope President Joe Biden in the same way it has enveloped Vice President Kamala Harris. But I wasn't sure we'd see it in a setting like this until next week at the convention. But then today happened. Tell me about this event.
Well, this event was really both President Biden and Vice President Harris coming out really as a united force. There's been a lot of sort of talk about whether or not President Biden was sad, the fact that he was publicly pushed off the ticket by his own party. But here you have two people whose legacies are linked forever. And you have in Vice President Harris someone who is seen as very, very loyal by President Biden. The body language there, the sort of conversations that they're having, the real support that you see them both giving each other on that stage, it really, to me, underscores the reporting that I've had, which is that she has deep respect for him. She was not part of the people who tried to push him off throughout all the weeks as all of the sort of conversation was happening about whether or not he should be dropped from the ticket. She was steadfast in her defense of him publicly and privately. And here they are together. It was an official event, official White House event. It's sort of what reporters like me and you will sort of point out. But this really could have been a campaign event, because what you see here are two people who are explaining, here's what we did for you as a team together, America, and here's how we can continue to do this if Vice President Harris is given a seat at the White House and elected the first woman president of this country. So this was really, I think, a moment where you saw them put on display the teamwork that got them to this moment, the fact that she was endorsed by him and endorsed not sort of in a begrudging way, but in a way of saying, okay, I can't do this anymore, but I hand this off to you with love and with support. That's what we saw today. And I think the vice president is going to continue to talk about how she respects him, how there's going to be policy, maybe some policy differences, but that fundamentally this is someone that she understands has really helped her grow as a politician and also put her in a place where she can be the first woman, the first black woman, the first Indian American woman to be at the top of a major party ticket.
You know, Yamiche, everything you're saying comes through, obviously, in the fact that they're together, but it's little things. It's little. When the crowd starts spontaneously chanting, "Thank you, Joe," and it happened a couple times, she steps back from the podium to let that sound grow, to let it play out organically, to make sure it sort of lasts its sort of natural, sort of organic way, and to make sure that he feels all that love. And then she underscores that. There's a lot of love in this room for you. Just a really graceful handoff of power between these two.
It was certainly a graceful handoff. And I think what you're pointing out there, the fact that the Democrats and the voters and the people that were in that room, they understand the role that President Biden is playing, is continuing to play in this party. The fact that he's continuing to go out and say, I'm going to stand next to this woman, that also shows you that he is sort of being bigger than any sort of sadness that he might feel. Because in talking to people that are close to him, I was interviewing Jim Clyburn, there, of course, is a little bit of sadness there, as anyone would feel sad if you were someone who thought you were going to be the party nominee and your party pushed back and said, no, we don't want you anymore, right? That's what happened to Joe Biden. That's a tough thing to weather. But the fact that he had this moment where people could chant his name, and I know during the reporting I had heard people were telling me if he drops out, if he endorses Harris, the party will still embrace him and still love him. I didn't know what that would really look like, right? Because that's never happened before. What we're living through has never happened before. But to see that play out, to see that realized, and to see the president sort of be able to have this moment, and to see the vice president, as you said, step back and let him have his moment in the sun, let him feel the love, let the crowd embrace him. That also tells you that she respects him and respects that crowd wanting to give him his flowers right now. I think you're going to see more of this at the DNC. I don't know that it's going to be the entire week because, of course, the party has made a turn, right? Usually on Monday, Tuesday, you're going to see that sort of Biden love fest, and then they're going to turn and say, okay, well, there's a new generation, and that's when you're going to see we just confirmed that the second gentleman is going to be speaking on that Tuesday night. We know that the vice president is going to be speaking on Thursday. So there's a slate of people that are going to be speaking, but I think that the DNC is going to feel, at least in the first few days, like that moment that you're just pointing out, Nicole.
And it all, you know, I think flows narratively. I think this joke, I want to play this for you, Margay. The president joking about his age now, turning himself into his own punchline and his own jokes.
I served in the Senate for 270 years. I know I only look 40, but I'm a little bit older. The longest time I was too damn young because I was only about 29 when I got elected. Now I'm too damn old.
I mean, this is going to bring the House down if these are sort of jokes that are a preview of how he sees his own political story. If this is sort of the frame he puts around it next week, Mara.
Well, we've been talking a lot about joy and about how this is a movement that's larger than, any one person or candidate. And I can't help but think about the contrast between the Republicans coalescing around Donald Trump in spite of everything that they know and have even said about the man. Someone who said, I alone can fix it. Someone who is leading a movement that is cult-like in many ways. And then you contrast that with this almost familial experience that the Democrats are playing out for us right now, where you see Joe Biden being extraordinarily magnanimous, and you see that reaction not only from Vice President Harris, but from the crowd. This is a party that's united, and that's because it's about more than one person. It's about the American people. It's about democracy. It's a movement. And I think today they were on message. And, the lack of drama in the Democratic Party is a real problem for Donald Trump, because the Democratic agenda and the agenda that this White House has pushed through is extremely popular. And not only that, but it's wins like that today on prescription drugs that are going to bring seniors to the polls, too. And it's going to get a lot more attention than it was when the Republicans were driving a narrative around Joe Biden's age. He's turned that on its head. And of course, there's also just an element of, we all know, just as humans in life, if you want to discharge discomfort, you just make fun of yourself. It's okay to laugh at yourself, something Donald Trump is incapable of doing. That, of course, makes him seem a little strange, which has been widely discussed. So I just think there's a lot of humanity on that ticket. There's a lot of humanity and excitement in the room. And it feels like a party where people want to be. You want to go to that party.
Yeah.
You want to step inside and be part of that room. You'd want to sit at that dining room table. It's such a contrast from the anger and vitriol and, again, just cult-like leadership that we're seeing right now, unfortunately, in the Republican Party.